the thing I tell everyone, provide immense value in your job. If you are so valuable, people they won't be able to help themselves, but keep you around and probably promote you and give you more money. It's just when you're that, and if you're that valuable and they can't, there's probably a limitation at the company and maybe you should look elsewhere.
On today's episode of Journey to Legacy, I interview Dr. Annie Cole of Money Essentials for Women. Annie actually started out as a social worker and a psychologist, sort of like a therapist, before making a drastic pivot to go to grad school for data and research analysis, which led her into a startup where she quickly climbed the ladder before actually now starting her own venture, helping to spread educational awareness around the world. Annie gives a ton of actionable things in this episode. So I recommend grab a piece of paper and a notebook. If you're driving, don't do it. But listen closely. You're not going to want to miss any of this piece of the puzzle because she's going to share with you actual financial pieces of how you can use her 5-step wealth framework, as well as actionable advice for how you can quickly grow a business exactly how she's doing it. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's hop right on in. Hi, Annie. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Annie, kick us off. Tell everybody just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Annie Cole, sometimes known as Dr. Annie Cole. I have a doctorate in education research. So I absolutely love data and number crunching. That is my thing for sure. I am the founder of Money Essentials for Women. So it's a one-stop shop financial resource center for women. We do coaching, financial resources, and then career and business support as well. So really just a holistic place where women can come and reach their money goals. So prior to that, I was the vice president of a startup for 4 years and ran their research practices, learned a ton about business, and then today I get to run my own business, which is a ton of fun.
That is so awesome. I really love like whenever I get to speak with entrepreneurs that have taken a really interesting path to get to where they are today. Like if you can think back, like when did you first get the inclination that you might want to even run your own business? Because that's not at all where you started, right?
No. And honestly, it was by accident, which is kind of funny. So I am the type A, very safe person that does everything by the books. I went to school, I got the degrees, I always make the safe choices. But then I ended up marrying my husband, who is an entrepreneur and is very much a risk taker. So he has rubbed off on me a lot. But it all started. So about a year ago, we were on Christmas break together. My husband and I were sitting in a Hawaii, actually. We were sitting with some tropical drinks, relaxing and saying, what would we do this next year to maybe take some time off and do something different? And I thought, I'm just going to go part-time in my job to give myself a break. The moment I told the CEO I was going part-time, there was an internal shift inside of me that reconnected me. It was almost like I had permission to reconnect with some things that I wanted to do. And that's when I had the idea of starting this business. So it truly came out of that. It wasn't a plan. It just popped up.
It just popped up. So what's caused the first of all, what caused the shift to go part-time, right? Because I mean it's one thing to be on vacation, with a drink in your hand, another thing to think, I'm gonna start my own business.
I know. So the real first intention was my husband and I both just work a ton. So I had gone to school, gotten my doctorate, had gotten this job to work at a startup right when I finished. I actually got the job and then still had to defend my dissertation. So it was crazy busy. And I worked all the way through for 4 years. So it was almost like a point where we decided, wow, we both have been going so hard for so long. What could we do to ease back and just have more time together, more time with family, slow down a little bit? And that's when I thought, financially, I can go part-time and make it work. So let's just try that out. And then the achiever in me, the moment I went part-time, filled it with something new, which was this business idea. So, I tested it out with good intentions and then this just came to life.
Well, love it. It sounds like it was absolutely meant to be. But
Yeah.
let's take a couple steps back, because I'm sure you learned a lot in these years leading up to it, right? And so you said you went to college for social work, I believe. Where did you think your
Yes.
life was going to go from there?
Yeah, I thought I would just be a frontline worker doing social work and counseling for my life. That was my plan. I got my degree in psychology. I always, at the end of high school, I thought I just want to help people. I love sitting down and having those therapy conversations. I'm a very reflective listener. I'm an introvert. So I thought that was what I wanted to do. And I loved that work. I did it for 2 years. It was just too heavy. And I will say, I totally admire the people that can do that work and hold space for heavy, heavy client experiences for a long time. I couldn't do it beyond 2 years. So I decided at that point, I wanted to continue helping people, but in a way that was more emotionally gentle on me. So that's when I moved into academic advising and worked at a college campus where I did more peer advising instead of the heavier conversations.
Yeah, wow. Um, Going from, of course, wanting to be sort of a frontline social worker, like no doubt, like it is so heavy and emotionally draining. Now, I'm
Yeah.
curious because I love talking a lot about communications, and in communications, a big piece is empathy, honestly, right? Being able to truly
Mm-hmm.
hear and understand what the other person is saying. I don't know if there are, but is there a way that you can be empathetic and like listen to people's like problems and issues and try and help them, but without almost internalizing them yourself? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I can say I'm a huge advocate for personal therapy and going to therapy. After that experience, I was feeling really burnt out. I actually took a bridge job for a while where I worked as a leasing agent at an apartment complex so that I could kind of heal, take care of myself before I moved into the academic advising. Started going to counseling, and there's so many tools we can use mentally to be able to set up boundaries and even manage our own self-talk so that we don't take things in the way that I was before. And a lot of it comes down to your beliefs. If you believe I'm supposed to take this on, or I feel guilt or shame or whatever those emotions are after having a conversation, it's there's a lot of mental tools. I'll just leave it at that. And I would say if you're someone who is having a hard time setting up those boundaries, therapy can help you. It's not just talking, it's really teaching you how to change your self talk. And I mean, even your breathing techniques, the way you show up with people, there's so many things you can do.
Okay, so if somebody is actually having those struggles where they are internalizing a lot of it, right? I mean, I love that piece of therapy. I totally agree. And then it's interesting when
Yeah.
you say it boils down to your beliefs. What sort of can you explain that a little bit more for me?
Yeah. So your beliefs subtly impact everything you do. And I actually talk about this a lot in my book when it comes to finances. So, for example, I'll give a little story. When I had been working as a social worker, I was making $26,000. I continued to make about $30,000 for maybe the next decade. And it wasn't until one day I was sitting in my office, I was ready to apply for the next level job. I pulled up Indeed, set the filter to, I think, $40,000 or maybe 35,000, because that's a belief, right? I believed a normal raise is five to $10,000. And then I had this epiphany moment where I thought, why, after all of my education, am I still believing that I'm only worth $30,000? So I set the filter up to 60,000. I only applied for jobs at 60,000 and I got a $60,000 job. That was my belief literally impacting my behavior and changing the outcome of how much money I made, my ability to reach financial freedom, my feelings about myself and my confidence. So those are the things that your beliefs impact. It trickles down into what you do and then what you experience.
I am honestly a little bit stunned. I mean, it's so correct, right? That's exactly how it goes. That you believed
Yeah.
that you were worth 35,000, right? That's what you were being paid and that's what you understood. And then when it comes to raises, right? Whatever that the public population, the world says what a normal raise is, that's in the next step that you took. It's what do you
Yeah.
think, like what overcame you to be able to think, you know what? No, screw this. Let me go a little bit higher. Like how I'm almost curious, how can people start to immediately rewire their brains to have a higher self-worth potentially also?
Yeah. There were a few different moments when my mindset started to shift. I would say one thing that's really powerful, spend time around people who will push your mindset because it can be really hard to personally step into something different. But I remember, for example, having a conversation with my now husband when we were dating. I was getting my master's degree. I'm a first generation college student. I honestly thought people who got a PhD or a doctorate were very fancy, well off, knew something that I didn't know. You know, I'm from this tiny town. I don't deserve to do something like that. And he didn't have that belief. You know, he thought, why wouldn't you apply? Why wouldn't you go do that? Why not you? And so I shifted my belief because he believed in me. And I've had that happen other times with friends and family members. They can really change what you think about yourself. So definitely surround yourself with people. It changes everything.
Surround yourself with more people that are going to help to actually expand and push your mindset.
Yes.
Absolutely love that. And so when you were in social work, right, about 2 years, you said it was just like really emotionally draining, and then you pivoted to almost a little bit of different type of advising, consulting for students. Is that correct? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I worked in a resource center. It was the resource center on the college campus in Oregon. And I was just helping all the students who had something going on that might make them not be successful. So if you're a freshman, you're likely to drop out. If you have low grades in the first semester, or if you need extra help because of a disability, those are all things that are going to make it extra challenging to transition into the college campus. So at the resource center, we just helped people connect with the resources they needed to be able to be successful. So that's what it looked like at first. And then I started getting into academic advising and doing my degree program at the same time, which again was all about data and research. And so I found myself every single day leaning into data to say, how can I use data to help these students the most? So if I see in the data someone showing a red flag, I'm going to bring that up in the conversation I have with them. So I honestly fell in love with the data side of things, which is what led me to eventually get into a research focused job.
Gotcha. You fell in love with the data. Can you give us an example of what is, if you're advising college students, right, incoming or currently, what sort of data and research can you actually be using to aid them?
So many things. So, for example, let's say I have someone who's coming in and I'm looking at their grades and they have fine grades, but they're really struggling in the sciences or in the math classes. And that person wants to be a science or a math teacher. That's probably not going to be the best route for them, right? Or if they're coming
Sure.
in and they're struggling in the sciences and they say they're pre-med, maybe the early conversations you have with them are either going to be number one, if you're really committed to this, we need to get you a tutor, we need to get you the support to see if you can overcome this. Or if you're having a conversation 1 year in, it's very technical and you would say, hey, you've failed this class. You're now this far off of graduating in 4 years. These are the financial ramifications. These are the educational ramifications and the course you have to
Right.
take. So it just influences every single piece of advice you're giving to a student.
Okay. So it's not necessarily just classic data points around exact numbers. It can actually be a little bit of like, um, what is the term? It's not uh, quantifiable data,
More of the qualitative. Yeah, it's
the
experiential,
qualitative
it's
data.
feedback, perceptions, it's all of that plus maybe an actual number like, well, the grade you get is a letter,
Their
but you know what I
grade.
mean.
Sure, exactly, exactly. How does that transition to what you're doing today? I mean, there's going to be obviously there's so much data now. Give us maybe some examples of what is some, quantifiable data that you're using today for helping with money essentials for women, even.
Yeah. So just I'll connect the dots a little bit. Working on the college campus, I loved research. I ended up becoming a research analyst for an ed tech startup. I worked with them for 4 years, ran all of their research projects. So I ran user experience studies, focus groups, interviews, observations, surveys, anything you can
Oh,
think
wow.
of, and also learned what it means to run a business and use all of those data points for the sales process, your marketing, your product development. So now what I do at Money Essentials, a lot of time we're focusing on numbers because it's financial coaching. So we're looking at your budget, we're looking at your income, we're truly crunching the numbers to say what's your expenses versus your income and what are your investments looking like. So very practical financial pieces. But on the data
Of course.
side, I'm looking at all kinds of pieces of data to improve the business. So I'm looking at if I'm running ads, what's the click rate? What's the conversion rate? If I'm having conversations with people, what topics on social media are actually getting engagement? Which ones are turning into conversions? Which ones are inspiring people? Which ones are getting feedback? So there's data in everything.
There's data and apps and everything. That's so true. Would you recommend that like people, I mean, almost everybody should go study data because like it's so interesting. Even if it's not exactly numbers, there's still data to be learned. How do we do that?
Oh, absolutely. I think, well, I don't know, I'm biased. I could spend time in a spreadsheet all day long because that's just what I
Sure.
do. But I would say if you're an entrepreneur, I'm actually running a workshop on this next week all about key performance indicators. So if you don't have KPIs for your business, think about that right now. And it does not have to be complicated. If you run a business, what are three of the key outcomes? One might be I want to make sales. How many and which products are you going to sell and what frequency? What does that look like? And once you define a number to that, you can backtrack and say, okay, I know I need to make this many sales. So how many conversations do I need to have? How many posts do I need to make? How many emails do I need to have open and clicked? And, you can just backtrack to actually create a plan of success for your business versus, oh, I hope my business is successful. I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff and hope it leads. And it's kind of a scattershot approach.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying to define KPIs first, key performance indicators, right? It doesn't
Yep.
have to just be, what's the amount of money that you're trying to make, but
Yep.
define a number for a lot of these key performance indicators and then work backwards. That's the easiest way to sort of be able to get to where you need to go?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people the miss setting a number. And I even felt this way early on in business because there's this thought that how can I set a number when I don't even know what's possible? But setting
Sure.
any number is better than nothing. Even if you said, I'd like to make two sales in this month. Okay,
Yeah.
what would it take to make two sales? It's just going to get your brain thinking differently because you'll start to think, what would it take? And it opens up this creative side to then be more structured, but also be more creative at the same time to have a plan.
Nice, nice. I like it. Even if you don't know where you should be shooting for, just put something together to get your brain flowing. What are
Yeah.
maybe some of like the different types of KPIs that you all are focusing on that can help get other people's brain flowing around, more than just, all right, two sales this month. What are some more examples that people can be looking into?
So right now, one of my KPIs is brand awareness. So more than just the sales, I'm looking at how can I get more people into my community. So the KPIs I'm looking at right now are things like website visits or email and newsletter signups or traffic from a piece of content that I get. So those are the key ones for me right now. I also think when it comes to your marketing efforts and your KPIs, a lot of people just have one thing they're doing. Like I'm posting on LinkedIn, I'm seeing if anyone likes it, nothing is happening. I would highly encourage you in the beginning, put it all out there. Get some media features, work with a PR rep, go on some podcasts, post on Pinterest, start a blog to get some SEO rich content on your website that can then help it rank for Google searches. There's so many things you can do. And then start looking at the numbers of what's actually leading to more engagement because you might find that your audience is all hanging out on Reddit, for example. Maybe you want to run ads on Reddit now, or maybe you have a location specific interest. So, yeah, test it all out in the beginning. There's so much you can do.
Test it all out. I couldn't agree with you more. Because in the beginning, especially you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work, right? So it's
Yeah,
important to try, then look at the data, see what is being effective, what's most effective, and then you go and double down on that, right?
absolutely. And one plug for something really cool that I just learned about this year. And of course, I'm a researcher, so this lit me up. There is a website called respondent.io. It's a place where you can sign up as a researcher. You can create a free profile. Have you heard of this?
I have not. No.
You have not? Okay. So you can go in, you can create a free profile as a researcher. They have a database of over 3 million people from across the world that want to engage in research. So you, as an everyday person, can say, I want to survey my dream client is people who golf and are between 40 and 45, and I want to ask them about my golf athleisure brand and their perceptions. So you would go in and either set up a project to invite people to a focus group, one-on-one interviews, or a survey, and you can literally find your dream clients and ask them what they think about your website, your advertisements. So you can get great market research. I think it's a piece that a lot of people miss. They'll do the online research to say, here's the competitors, here's how I'm going to develop my stuff. But then when you go ask a
Yeah.
person, they give you a
Yeah.
whole nother level of feedback on, oh, this looks a little cheap. I don't really trust this brand. Or this is great, but it's not touching on a pain point I have. I would never buy. It's just, they're
Yeah.
going to give you the raw feedback.
Wow, that's such a great tip. Respondent.io.
Yes.
Doing actual research is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that unfortunately a lot of people miss, right? Where did you, I mean, I guess you did study data and research, but it probably wasn't much like business or customer research, was it?
It wasn't business or customer research, but that's what I loved about the job I got because once I got the job working for the startup, I mean, I remember I got to do one time I ran a focus group in tandem with our brand design manager. So she was asking questions. We would literally show a web page and say, we'd scroll through it and say, what are your thoughts? What are your beliefs? What are you thinking about? What questions do you have? So we would create the environment as if someone's landing on our website for the first time and listen to them. And then the next day I would go, someone's taking our online course and I would look at their survey feedback to say, at this point in the course, I don't feel prepared enough for the content you're giving me. So I just was getting data from every piece of the company and then working under the CEO to say, based on all of this, here's what I'm learning, not just one piece, but truly every piece. It was so cool.
Wow, that's really awesome. Let's talk about this startup here for a second, because my understanding is that you climbed the ladder in it, not just quickly, but like you climbed the ladder like almost from the bottom to the top. And I'm really curious
Yeah.
how that happened. Where did you start? And I'm really curious, like how did you climb up in the startup?
Yeah. Well, I have to give credit to the startup itself because you can work for a startup that is not going to explode. It's definitely not guaranteed. I happened to get in with the startup that had a great idea and they blew up. I mean, I think we had 300% year over year growth for a couple years in a row. It was insane.
Wow. Wow.
And so I started, my first job was research analyst. I remember my boss, the president, hired me and there was small, maybe 8 of us. And he said, I hope we have enough work for you. And
Wow.
I was like, I'm going to make this the most amazing job ever. So I started literally creating my job was to run this one project per year, but I just started doing what I do best, which is look at the data because I'd been doing that so many years before. So within 5 months, they said, your skills are beyond research analyst. You're becoming the director of research. So I became the director of research pretty quickly. And then we started bringing on, we brought on some interns at first under me. And then we had, I think, a program manager. And then after a while, they realized that my skills were also in the database management. So I took over our Salesforce integration, basically all of our technical data storage as well. And that's when I got promoted to the vice president of data and evaluation strategy. And I was doing all of that. And we landed this amazing multi-million-dollar federal grant to study our educational model. So it was, the big federally funded research projects, which are very much technical and in the weeds. And then we have the Salesforce system, which is setting up automations and storage. And then we had the internal work, which is what's the data telling us to keep making different decisions. So it was, yeah. And all of that, I think it came with the thing I tell everyone: provide immense value in your job. If you are
Nice.
so valuable, people will not, they won't be able to help themselves, but keep you around and probably promote you and give you more money. It's just when you're that, and if you're that valuable and they can't, there's probably a limitation at the company and maybe you should look elsewhere, honestly.
Nice. Providing so much value. I mean, so it sounds like that's what you did, right? So you came in as this data analyst, right? Research. Not, you weren't an intern, but low and total. Hopefully we have enough work for you. And then
Yeah.
it sounds like you basically just decided, you know what, I'm going to make sure there's enough work for me. Right? I'm asked to do
Yes.
this, but I'm going to go and look at the data everywhere and of everything. somebody that's sitting maybe in like a corporate role, in my mind, wouldn't they almost be like stepping on somebody else's toes if they do too much work? Or how do we even get somebody over the mindset of like, well, that's not my job, so I'm not going to do it? Well, it's like, okay, we'll provide more value, right? What can we tell these people?
I think it does depend on your work environment because I will
Mm,
say I have more often than not taken jobs that allowed me to kind of DIY and build the department or the job from the ground up. But I remember one particular job I had where I asked to take on additional responsibility and I was told that's not really something we do here. We really have a clear role for you. We want
mm,
you to stay within it. And so in that case, I ended up moving on from that role because it wasn't a fit with what I wanted to do. So yeah, if you are in a culture where that's going to be stepping on people's toes, then don't do it. I mean, that's probably not going to
yeah,
get you very far and it's going to piss people off, to be honest. Um,
yeah.
but if you look for places that are open to that and ask about it in the interview, like how much flexibility do I have in growing this, or I have some ideas to do this, this, and this. The places that are excited about that, that's where you should be because they will love it. They'll be so happy you're there and you're being creative.
Mm. So you need to check what the culture is that you're in first, before making those moves. But overarching, it
Yeah.
sounds like if you're finding that, you know, extra work, right, taking initiative isn't supported, it sounds to me like we need to recommend that they go ahead and find another job, right? They need to find a different environment.
Yeah. I would think so. And I also want to clarify I'm not an advocate for adding extra work. I'm an advocate for taking on more strategic, high level, important work. So, for example, if you are working on a bunch of projects and you have a good relationship with your supervisor and you say, I have an idea to improve this and I want to start doing this and let go of this, or transform how I do this piece of work, that's really helpful. Don't feel like you have to take on another half of a job to prove yourself. That's also not going to be sustainable.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be sustainable. What you just said is that you can have a conversation that, you're going to outline a gap that you're seeing that you want to work more on while being able to ideally let something else go, right?
Yep.
Conversations like that can be pretty intimidating. I don't know how much you talk up to your clients. I mean, I know you guys are pretty holistic at Money Essentials for Women, but do you have conversations around how to maybe speak to bosses, to speak to managers, to allow those transitions to happen? Because I think a lot of people are kind of scared of that.
Yeah, we definitely do. So I don't tend to have those. I definitely can. I don't tend to have those conversations as much because I focus on the financial side, but we have career
Mm.
coaches that absolutely do. We actually have a workshop coming up. I think it might be next week as well, all about how to ask or negotiate either a job offer or your salary. And that one
Oh,
is a hard one. I also include a script in my book that is literally a script you can use to step one, send the email, step two, how to make the ask, what to write down ahead of time, because it is intimidating. I know it's intimidating. But yeah, there are lots of ways you can have that conversation in a way that's really approachable and comfortable. And it doesn't mean you won't be sweating your way through it. You probably will
of
be, but
course.
you'll at least know what you're going to say.
That's great. And you mentioned your book a couple times now. Tell us what's it called? What's the book about?
Yeah, so it's 101 ways to build wealth in your 30s. And I'm almost sad that I mentioned the word 30 in there because I'm in my 30s. I thought this is what I would have wanted to read, but I've had women in their 20s and their 50s. I've had men read it. Everyone thinks it's valuable. So it is tiny snippets, so 2 to 3 pages each on 101 different ways to truly master your finances. So one chapter might be on how to get the best auto loan. One is on how taxes work and how to keep your taxes low. Another one is on how to turn a room in your house into an Airbnb. I mean, it is truly so creative and covers so many different ideas. And my thought was, I never want someone to feel like they want to make more money or do something better with their money and not know how. So this book is like you could flip it open, point to something, and you could do that today and probably either save money or make more money.
That is so great. What made you actually write the book? Like, where'd you come up with this idea?
It was all the things I have learned over the last decade in my own life. Like I've advocated, I've made job changes. I've learned the hard way a whole bunch of things from how to budget and how to save to how to invest. And I just, yeah, I felt like I had this story inside of me of all the tips I wish I could tell my best friend. And so I just wrote them down in a book and then literally gave it to my best friends and family. And it was awesome.
Really? Nice. And I'm sure I mean, it sounds like it's a great resource for like everybody that comes into your guys' business as well.
Yes.
Is that a piece of the puzzle that it's also used, I guess, not really as a lead magnet almost, but as an introduction to your services?
Yes. So it's organized. Actually, the book has five main chapters and then the mini chapters
Mhm.
within it. So the five key pieces are reflective of my 5 step wealth framework that I use with all my clients and that inform basically it's my philosophy when I help people with their finances. So step one is having a vision and money mindset that's strong and positive. So overcoming those limiting beliefs and knowing what you want to do. Number two is creating a personal budget. So that's just knowing every piece of your financial puzzle, what's in your bank account, what's in your retirement account, your income, your expenses. Step three is creating income streams. So that could be focusing on career, but that could also be side hustles, entrepreneurship, and a lot of other things. Step four is then growing your money. So knowing how to invest your money into assets that will either grow in value over time or create passive income for you. And then number five is creating a holistic lifestyle and money habits that actually keep you moving towards your goals. So, altogether, I think a lot of people just jump to number three. They want to just get a job, make money. They don't have a
Yeah,
vision, they don't know their budget, they're not investing, and it just feels like they're running this rat race. So, I feel like this framework really helps get people thinking more holistically about their finances and their life as a whole.
wonderful. The five-step wealth framework, right? Overcoming limiting beliefs in your mindset, creating a budget, then creating more money streams, growing your money, then actually those money habits, sort of that holistic lifestyle is
Yeah.
is so great. And so it sounds like what you're saying is that the business, right? Your company currently, Money Essentials for Women, you're focused around mainly that core framework as well. Is that how you all help people?
Yeah, actually, so it's interesting. I launched my business and it was just all about me, my framework, my coaching. And then as I've had more people come into our community, that's why we've expanded and now have the business support and the career support. So that's my personal framework and how I guide people through the financial journey. I know that our career coaches or our business coaches might have a little bit of a different approach, but that's definitely my philosophy and approach.
That's wonderful. And so, what are your hopes for? Where's the company going to go? Right. So you only started in, I think, about the last year, if I heard you correctly. What are your hopes for the future?
Yes. Yeah, actually, we're 5 months old this month, which is really exciting, but
Amazing.
still very young. And I think this next year, our main focus, I think I mentioned it earlier, but our main KPI is really brand recognition and trust. So the more that I can just spread the word, do more things like this, being on podcasts, just chatting with people, um, getting media features, our marketing is probably our biggest focus right now. And then
Wonderful.
also, I really, because my past work in social work and education, I really have a passion for education. So I personally am doing a lot of local workshops in the community with our library and with, different service providers in the area. So just getting financial education out there. I want to touch as many lives as possible. And at the end of the day, that's the biggest goal for me.
Absolutely. Touch as many lives as possible, get financial education out there. And so it
Yeah.
sounds like, you said with your KPIs, it's more brand awareness, getting out in front of people. I don't often get to talk to entrepreneurs or business owners that are in such an early stage. But you definitely, you and the business itself seems much more mature, if I could say that word. Like it doesn't seem like you're a couple months old. What are maybe some of the things that
Yeah.
you could recommend to people that are just getting going and that could maybe fast forward their growth a little bit?
Well, I have to give a shout out to my husband because I watched him build a business for the last, I don't know, 4 to 5 years before I started. I
Uh,
literally would hang out with him in the evenings and watch him, and we would talk about his business. So I got the inside scoop very early on, and I was working
Great.
at a startup. So I would say if you can get the experience working for a company and just I don't know, ask someone who is a part of the business that you want to understand to mentor you. That would be an awesome way to start. But when you
100%.
actually take the step, let's say you're starting your business this month. Number one thing I did right away, I actually hired a PR person to help me get some media features because what you need is credibility. It's one thing to
Right.
get your name out there. Let's say you go viral and create a post and everyone clicks on it. They still might not know if they're going to trust you. So when I worked with this PR person, we got into the financial outlets that really make sense, like Go Banking Rates and Yahoo Finance and MSN and all of these outlets that people recognize so that now when people land on my website, they can see, oh, this person is featured in trusted outlets. That was huge right away. And then the second thing I would say, start posting on social media before you feel like you know what you're doing. It's so intimidating at first. I was not a social media person. I hadn't even used Instagram before I started posting on Instagram. My first video, I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure it's embarrassing. But just just go for it. You will get better every single day. I don't know if you feel that way, Wayne, but I definitely felt like it was scary at first.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, super, super scary. And you just have to start, right? It's almost like everything in life. If we can all relate it even to riding a bike, which I don't know about you, but I
Yeah.
don't remember learning how to ride a bike. But
No.
I probably blocked it out because it's a lot of trauma, I'm sure. But it doesn't matter because it was really scary. Yeah, you just have to just start doing things, and that's how you practice, and that's how you get better. And so posting on
Yeah.
social media is one of them. And then also just such a great tip is this power of credibility and trust, right? Because as you said it, even if you have great marketing and you put it out there and you attract the audience, if they don't trust you, if they don't see credibility, the chances that they move forward to work with you are very slim, huh?
Yep, absolutely. And I would say it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. First of all, you don't need a website right away. You can honestly
Mm,
start just with a social media profile and your network. So don't worry about
nice.
spending too much money. But when you do create any online presence, especially a website, I highly recommend Squarespace. I use Squarespace. It's pretty
Okay.
affordable. I think it's $47 a month. And they have a lot of templates that are really beautiful, beautiful stock images. It makes it easy to make your website look credible because if you don't have credible looking, good landing pages, the trust is just gone. So that's a huge one early on.
Nice, huge one early on. Don't think that you have to have a website. You can just use social media, but at the end of the day, it just needs to be well put together. It needs to build credibility, build trust. Absolutely. I think those
Absolutely.
are really amazing tips for early on. And so, Annie, you're doing great things, right? You're spreading so much financial education in the world, and it sounds like that's what your plan is for the future, also. But per like the
Yeah.
show's actual theme around legacy, I'm curious, what does legacy even mean to you? Like, it's so different for so many people.
Yeah, I think legacy for each of us is tapping into what is unique about us and then sharing that with the world. And it's funny because I'm a numbers person. I love to quantify things. I don't quantify legacy though. I really think it's a qualitative experience and it's different for each of us. But it's that feeling that, in sports, they talk about leaving it all on the floor. You put it all out there, you gave it your all. I feel like that's what it means to leave a legacy because if you feel like there's this passion in you that you never got to apply, you never got to impact others' lives, it's just I don't know. It's not going to feel good. So the more you can just share that special thing, whatever it is with the world, that's going to feel like you're leaving a legacy, I think.
Each individual person, whatever is, in their heart, whatever they enjoy doing, whatever they're good at, sharing
Yeah.
it with people, leaving it all out on the court, leaving it all out on the field. That's going to be where
Yep.
you sort of get that fulfillment and leaving a legacy for everybody to grow. Got to help others.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
That's wonderful, Annie. If people want to learn more about you, more about Money Essentials for Women, where's the best place that they can go and check you out?
Best place to go is our website. So it's money-essentials.com. And there are tons of freebies on there. We have free guides, everything from, how to invest in the stock market to how to create a budget, how to start a side hustle. There's so much good content, blog content on there. And then all of our socials are linked there as well. So yeah, definitely give it a visit.
And to all you out here listening today, thank you for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Amazing lessons that we learned from Dr. Annie Cole here from Money Essentials for Women. I like how she talked about therapy in the beginning, how important it is, right? How we can go changing our beliefs and our mindset by spending time with people who actually sort of push the boundaries. We must just simply believe in ourselves more, right? Her story about how she believed that she was worth only a $35,000 job until she simply just made the mindset shift that she's actually worth a $60,000 job, and she got it. So everybody out there, please take that to heart. And then, man, so much more around teaching us how to ask and negotiate, always the power of credibility and trust. And then this 5-step wealth framework, right? That also starts with changing our beliefs. How interesting. Everybody out there, if you are looking for help on the money side, reach out to Annie. If you're looking for help to actually make a larger, more meaningful difference and leave your own legacy in this world, I'd love to invite you to come join us in Journey to Legacy community. Visit us over at journeytolegacy.org and join us getting together every week, live mastermind calls, online courses to help you shape your mindset, to shape your communication, and to shape your actions to help you leave a meaningful legacy on this world. Join us over at journeytolegacy.org. Until next time, my name is Wayne Veldsman. Thank you for tuning in.